Welcome to another video. Today's topic is rearranging formulas. Starting off with the first one, we're trying to make D the subject. So basically putting it alone on one side of the equation. And one way of doing that is removing everything else apart from D from its side of the equation. So in this case, you would do -5 on each side of the equation. And if you subtract both sides by if you subtract both sides by 5, you'll get E minus 5 equals D plus 5 minus 5, which is E minus 5 equals D, because 5 minus 5 is 0. So D equals to E minus 5. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side. Okay, in this case, I subtracted 5. You have to do the same thing to the other side, okay? Both sides, you do the same thing. If I want to add 2, you add 2 to the other side as well. If you want to multiply by 2, you multiply by 2 on the other side as well. If you want to divide by 5, divide both sides by 5. If you want to square both sides, you square both sides by 5, okay? Make sure you know this. Now on to the next one. We have to make W the subject. So first of all, we try and remove the C. So you subtract both sides by C. So then it becomes A minus C equals C minus W minus C. A minus C equals C minus C is 0. So you're left with minus W. Now we're trying to find positive W as the subject. So we need to get rid of the negative. To get rid of the negative, you just multiply both sides by -1. Sorry, I missed the sign here. Yeah, you multiply both sides by -1. Now when you multiply both sides by -1, this is what happens. Minus times A equals minus A. Minus times minus C equals plus C. Minus 1 times minus W will give you W. So then W equals C minus A. Now an alternative way of doing this is to get rid of the W from one side of the equation. So you have A equals C minus W. You could also add W to both sides of the equations. And this is what you get. So A plus W equals C. Because C minus W plus W will give you 0. Okay, so it will give you C plus 0. So A plus W equals C. Then you subtract A from both sides. So A minus A plus W equals C minus A. A minus A is 0, so W equals C minus A. Now for this next one, make W the subject. Another W. So in this case, you have T equals W over 2. Now what we'll do here is we'll multiply each side by 2. So 2 times T equals W over 2 times 2. Now, W over 2 times 2 will cancel out. The 2's will cancel out. So 2t will equal to W. So W is 2t. Make x the subject. Now this time we have 3x. We're trying to get rid of this 3. So we multiply both sides by 1 over 3. So y becomes 1 over 3y equals to 3x times 1 over 3. And same thing as before, the 3's will cancel out. So you're left with 1 over 3y equals x. So x is y over 3. In other words, x equals y over 3. Like this. Okay, same thing. For this next one, okay, this is slightly more difficult. So make u the subject. We have v equals u plus 10, plus 10t. We're gonna try and remove this, the 10t. So you subtract each side by 10t. So v minus 10t equals u plus 10t minus 10t. So v minus 10t equals u. So u is v minus 10t. Now for this one, make t the subject. The t term has a 3. So we need to not only get rid of the -8, but also the 3. So first of all, you add 8 to both sides. Then it becomes m plus 8 equals 3t plus 0, since minus 8 plus 8 is 0. And then you multiply both sides by a third, okay, to cancel out the 3. So 1/3 multiplied by m plus 8 equals 3t times a third. The 3 will cancel out, so you're left with m plus 8 over 3 equals t. So t is m plus 8 over 3. For this next one, make g the subject. Okay, now this one is trickier. So you have a equals square root g. In other words, a equals g to the power of half. Now for this one, what we're going to do is we're going to square them. Okay, we're going to square both sides. So a will be squared and g will be squared. So then this will give you a squared equals 2. Now look, half times 2 is 1. Half times 2 cancel out and it becomes 1. So you're left with g. So g is a squared. If you square any square root, the square root will cancel out. I just labeled it as half just to make it easier to understand. Okay, but just know that the square root is the opposite of square. So if you square a square root, then it will just cancel each other out. Okay. For this one, make y the subject. So k equals y cubed plus a. First of all, we will subtract a from both sides. Minus a and minus a. So this will give you k minus a equals y cubed. And now we are going to cube root. Okay, basically what we did in this previous question, but we used the cube instead. K minus a and cube root y minus 3. Now if we do this, the cube root and the power of 3 will cancel out. So you're left with cubed root of k minus a equals y. Now for this one, make w the subject. First thing is you square both sides to get rid of the square root. You square both sides, so this will give you r squared equals 3w plus t. Remember, the square root cancels out if you square a square root. So r squared is 3w plus t. Subtract t from both sides. So r squared minus t equals 3w plus 0. So just 3w. And then you multiply a third. Or divide by 3, same thing, both sides. So r2 minus t over 3 equals w, since the 3 will cancel out. Nice and simple. In this one, make u the subject. So you have v squared equals u squared plus 2as. So before you square root, you have to move this 2as. Okay, so you subtract both sides by 2as. Minus 2as and minus 2as. So v squared minus 2as equals u squared. And then now you can square root. So the square root of v squared minus 2as equals u. Make a the subject. We're trying to find a, but it's on both sides of the equation. So when we have questions like this, the aim is to put the subject that we're trying to find in one side of the equation. So you have to move this 3a to this side of the equation with the other way, or the other way around. Okay, whichever works. So in this case, I'm going to move the 3a. Actually, in this case, it will be easier to move the ay to this side of the equation. So you subtract both sides by ay. So then that will leave you with k equals 3a minus ay. And now we factorize. You have a as a common factor. So you take a out, 3 minus y. And then you divide both sides by 3 minus y. Divide both sides by 3 minus y. So basically, then it becomes k over 3 minus y equals a. So a is k over 3 minus y. Now for this one, now the a's are locked inside the brackets, so you have to expand the brackets. Okay, so by expanding, you get ma plus my, m times a plus n times y, equals xa plus xb, x times a plus x times b. And now you have to put the a's on the same side. So we're going to subtract both sides by xa minus xa minus xa. This will give you ma minus xa plus my equals xb. We still have this my lying there, and we want to remove it to factorize this. So we subtract my from both sides of the equation. So you're left with ma minus xa equals xb minus my. And then you factorize. So a equals m minus x equals xb minus my. Then you divide both sides by bracket m minus x. Okay, you divide both sides by that. So then this will give you a equals xb minus my over m minus x. Now for these last two, make a the subject. Again, the a is on both sides, okay, but this is just slightly more complicated. So a minus n equals a plus 2. So first of all, we need to remove this n. So you multiply both sides by n. Times n times n. So then this becomes a minus n equals a plus 2. You multiply n by 1 over n, cancels out. So you're left with a plus 2. Then you expand these brackets, which will give you an minus n squared equals a plus 2. And then you put the a's on the same side by subtracting a on both sides of the equation. So na minus a equals 2. Then you move the n squared, you add n squared to both sides of the equation. So na minus a equals 2 plus n squared. So a equals, and then you factorize. So a n minus 1 equals 2 plus n squared. Then you divide both sides by this bracket. So then it becomes a equals 2 plus n squared over n minus 1. This would be your answer. Now for this last one, first of all, you square both sides to remove the square root. So a plus x, a minus x, and 2 squared is 4. And now you put the ax on the other side and you expand by multiplying both sides by a minus x times a minus x and times a minus x. So a plus x equals 4 times a minus x. Expand the brackets. A plus x equals 4a minus 4x. And then you put the a's on the same side. Okay, in this case I'm going to put this a on the side with the 4a and minus 4x on this side. So I'll do two steps at the same time, which will be minus a and plus 4x. Okay, so x will become 5x since you're adding x. A will be removed by minus a, and then 4a minus a will give you 3a, and the 4x is gone because you added 4x to both sides. So then you're left with this. Then the last thing you have to do is remove the 3. So you divide both sides by 3, or you multiply by a third, it's the same thing. So then this will give you 5x over 3 equals a. So a is 5x over 3. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hope this was helpful and see you in the next video.